Welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist Community of Charlotte. I'm Eve Stevens, my pronouns are she, hers, and I am one of the ministers serving this congregation. You will hear from a number of this congregation's members throughout the course of this morning's service. If you're a regular, you may catch a few familiar faces. If you're a guest, you'll get to meet just a few of the wonderful people who come together to nurture the shared life of this spiritual community. We'll hear some of them mention their participation in the Cultural Justice Core Group. Our core groups are intensive year-long learning experiences. Participants meet monthly to learn about the repeating patterns of systemic injustice against marginalized peoples throughout United States history. Each of the people you'll hear from this morning is someone deeply involved in the work our congregational vision calls us to. Inspiring spiritual, societal, and environmental transformation in the larger community, in our congregation, and in the personal lives of children, youth, and adults. Members, thank you for all you do to sustain the work we do together. Guests, I hope will spark your curiosity this morning and you'll join us again. Welcome all. I invite you to greet one another under the welcome post on our public Facebook page. We light this communal flame, symbol of our liberating faith, with words adapted from Sean Trapp. Our chalice reminds us that the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates our universe. It is our reminder that all is connected, even though the space of the void is vast. This flame is our promise that we will live intently and deeply, with love for one another, with honesty and integrity, and with a sense of shared responsibility.
Good morning. I'm George Ladner, and I've been a member of this congregation and community for 6.5 years. Among other commitments here, I serve on the finance team and have taken part in the Economic Justice Core Group and this year's Cultural Justice Core Group. I want to extend a special welcome to any guest here with us today. It may feel challenging to get to know us better in this virtual format. And of course, we look forward to one day welcoming you in person. For now, to learn more about various opportunities to connect with others here, you can subscribe to our weekly e-newsletter, Currents. I also encourage you to attend Meet a Minister today on Zoom following this service. You'll have a chance to get to know one of our two ministers through casual conversation and ask any questions you may have about this community of faith. You can find the Zoom link to attend Meet a Minister on the Sunday schedule post on our public Facebook page or on the calendar page of our website. You can also reach out to our membership coordinator, Kelly Green. You can reach Kelly at KELLY@uuccharlotte.org. Kelly would love to help you get better connected with us. Again, welcome, and thank you for spending your Sunday with us.
In the winter of 1776, the English-born political philosopher Thomas Paine published a pamphlet entitled Common Sense. In it, he called for American independence from England. And one of his key arguments justifying that call for independence was that the people who now populated this land were not just from England. England alone was not the parent country of the colonies. As Paine wrote, "The New World hath been the asylum for the persecuted lovers of civil and religious liberty from every part of Europe." In other words, the people of this land come from too many different countries for England to claim them solely as citizens. In fact, in 1776, there was an even more diverse population of people living here than Paine acknowledged. Among them, people whose ancestors had come to this soil over 100 years ago from Africa, enslaved. And of course, the many Native American peoples who had been on this soil long before colonizers arrived. After the United States declared independence from England, despite this diversity, it was white men born in the United States who owned property, who were the only people considered citizens in this new country. The only people protected by the laws of the land and able to vote, among other things, were white property-owning men. Those Native Americans, enslaved peoples of African descent, along with indentured servants of European descent, a diversity of free people who did not own property, women, and people immigrating from other countries to this country did not enjoy the rights, protections, and privileges of citizenship. 14 years after becoming the United States of America, lawmakers set about debating and outlining what would be required of a person not born on this soil to become a citizen of the United States. These lawmakers set themselves to the task of determining what requirements could transform, or rather naturalize, a foreigner into an American. Which of the people finding their way to the shores of this new country from around the world would have the right to a jury trial? Whose property could not be taken without just compensation? Whose right to re-enter this country would be protected? Who could vote? When the Naturalization Act of 1790 was passed on March 26th of that year, U.S. lawmakers answered these questions. As the document read, any alien being a free white person could become a citizen after residing here for at least 2 years if, after appearing before any common law court of record, they were deemed by whoever happened to be sitting on the bench that day to be of good character. Subjective measure being of good character. In 1790, our forebears established an immigration system. Before there was talk of building walls at our southern border, before there were raids conducted by immigration and customs enforcement on undocumented people in our communities, before some families were separated upon their entry to this country for processing, United States lawmakers used their governing power and authority to establish an immigration system, a system of laws that drew a clear dividing line between the immigrants who would be valued, who would be protected, and those who would not. A system of laws that drew a clear dividing line between the immigrants who would help set the standard of what it means to be an American, help set the standard of our collective American character. and the immigrants who would not. A definitive legal boundary determining who belongs in this country and who does not. The poet Richard Blanco writes that by the time he was only a few weeks old, he could claim a portion of belonging in 3 countries. His mother arrived in Spain as an exile from Cuba when she was 7 months pregnant. Blanco was born in Spain, and then 45 days later, his family immigrated to the United States, settling in Miami, Florida. Richard Blanco's first name was given in honor of President Richard Nixon. Blanco explains that this was not out of admiration for Nixon's political views, but rather as an expression of his mother's yearning to belong in the land she dreamed of as a place of prosperity and possibility. The name Richard was an attempt to bestow upon her son a kind of gate key that might allow him to access an insider experience of the United States. Blanco grew up in a loving, close-knit immigrant community. The tastes, smells, and sounds that surrounded him, as long as he could remember, gave him a visceral, embodied sense of home and of belonging. Blanco grew up and became a civil engineer, spending his days immersed in the work of physical creation, of structure and design, constructing bridges and buildings. It was in the midst of this hands-on work that Blanco discovered he was also fascinated by, as he puts it, the design, structure, and patterns of the emotional landscape around him. He began writing poetry. As memories poured out onto the page, Blanco began to put words to his experience as an immigrant living in the United States. His mother's visible bewilderment every time she received a 5-pound jar of peanut butter from the immigration department, unsure of how other Americans managed to make use of the stuff. Perhaps most of all, it was the characters and plot points of the 1960s and 70s cable TV shows pouring into the Blanco's living room that instilled an inescapable awareness of the ways that he and his family fit the American definition of outsider and other. As Blanco writes in his poem, America, we didn't live in a 2-story house with a maid or a wood-paneled station wagon, nor vacation camping in Colorado. None of the girls had hair of gold. None of my brothers or cousins were named Greg, Peter, or Marcia. We were not the Brady Bunch. He goes on, none of the black and white characters on Donna Reed or on the Dick Van Dyke Show were named Guadalupe, Lazaro, or Mercedes. Patty Duke's family wasn't like us either. They didn't have pork on Thanksgiving, Blanco writes. They ate turkey with cranberry sauce. They didn't have yucca, they had yams. Like the didos of pilgrims I colored in class. This is a poem by Richard Blanco entitled Complaint of El Rio Grande. And the poem includes racial slurs and I've decided to read it as is, as the poet intended, to allow for the full effect of its meaning to land. In this poem, Richard Blanco gives the Rio Grande a voice, allowing the river to narrate the experience of watching human history unfold. Complaint of El Rio Grande. I was meant for all things to meet, to make the clouds pause in the mirror of my waters, to be home to fallen rain that finds its way to me, to turn eons of loveless rock into lovesick pebbles and carry them as humble gifts back to the sea which brings life back to me. I felt the sun flare, praised each star, flocked about the moon long before you did. I've breathed air you'll never breathe, listened to songbirds before you could speak their names, before you dug your oars in me, before you created the gods that created you. Then countries, your invention, maps, jigsawing the world into colored shapes, caged in bold lines to say, you're here, not there, you're this, not that, to say yellow isn't red, red isn't black, black is not white, to say mine, not ours, to say war and believe life's worth is relative. You named me Big River, drew me blue, thick to divide, to say spick and Yankee, to say wetback and gringo. You split me in two, half of me, us, the rest, them. But I wasn't meant to drown children. Hear mothers' cries, never meant to be your geography. A line, a border, a murderer. I was meant for all things to meet. The mirrored clouds and suns tingle. Bird songs and the quiet moon. The wind and its dust. The rush of mountain rain. And us. Blood that runs in you is water flowing in me. Both life. The truth we know. Be one in one another. The poetry and literature of immigrant writers reveals the visceral experience of confronting on a daily basis the barriers our country has constructed from laws, dehumanizing language, and barbed wire. Poet and activist Marcelo Hernandez Castillo immigrated to this country from Mexico with his family when he was 5 years old. Castillo wrote a memoir called Children of the Land, in which he describes what it was like to grow up undocumented in the United States. He describes the fear that became part of his very body. His attempts to somehow remain invisible to teachers and neighbors while struggling to make sure he did not lose himself and disappear altogether. Castillo describes the physical and emotional landscape that undocumented people navigate in this country. He reflects on the American obsession with the boundary line on the map between the United States and Mexico. Our government's perennial fixation with the construction of physical barriers to keep immigrants from the South outside. The quick resort to force, to confinement, to violence in order to ensure that more bodies of color do not infiltrate into the inner sanctum of Americanness, tainting our collective national character. Castillo writes, I ventured to believe that the function of the border wasn't only to keep people out. At least that was not its long-term function. Its other purpose, he writes, was to be visible, to be seen, to be carried in the imaginations of migrants deep into the interior of the country, in the interior of their minds. He continues, I came to see that the border was a spectacle meant to be witnessed by the world, and all its death and violence was and continues to be a form of social control. The way that kings of the past needed to behead only one petty thief in the public square to quell thousands more. Castillo's family experienced intimately the casual brutality of our nation's immigration system. His mother spent her working life enduring jobs that took a staggering physical toll on her body. His father was torn from his children and his wife and deported. He attempted repeatedly for over a decade to be reunited with his loved ones in California, only to ultimately be denied re-entry. When he was a kid and Castillo's mother was feeling most homesick for Mexico, most frustrated with how helpless she felt, how scared in this new country. She would tell her son stories of her childhood, growing up as the youngest of 7 children. His mother told stories of how she would put precious AA batteries on a rock in the hot sun to make them last just a little longer. Then how she would put them in her radio and climb up on the roof to listen to the music of radio stations in Laredo, Texas. In another story, Castillo's mother would tell, she was sitting on a large rock with her own mother at dusk. Her mother wrapped her in a shawl as they huddled together in the chilly evening air. Because none of their neighbors had electricity, when the sun went down, all the edges and lines of the world disappeared in the darkness. All that was left were the stars, too many to count. All existence blurred together into one glittering expanse. I invite you to close your eyes, to deepen your breath, to notice where is there tension in your body. Where have words that were difficult to hear, feelings that were difficult to hold, where have they landed in your body this week? Breathe and notice. As you breathe in the company of this community, something larger holding you. Let your shoulders relax and your jaw and your hands. Drink in this moment of quiet as we enter meditation together. As you breathe deeply, I offer you these excerpts of a poem by Marie Howe entitled Singularity. Do you sometimes want to wake up to the singularity we once were? So compact. Nobody needed a bed or food or money. Nobody hiding in the school bathroom, or home alone, pulling open the drawer where the pills are kept. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. Remember? Would that we could wake up to what we were when we were ocean. And before that, to when sky was earth and animal was energy and rock was liquid and stars were space and space was not at all nothing. Can molecules recall it? What once was before anything happened? No I, no we, no one. No was, no verb, no noun, only a tiny, tiny dot brimming with is, 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 is. All, everything, home. May we carry this oneness in our bodies. Amen.
Good morning. I'm Gwen Movius, a member of the stewardship team. I have been a member of the UUCC for 29 years and, like perhaps many of you, joined this congregation to help provide a spiritual home for our child. I had grown up unchurched, but was always faintly intrigued by religion. And once I started attending services, I quickly realized that I delighted in something I had never even known I was missing. I've served in many capacities at the UUCC, but I've always felt particularly strongly about funding the congregation. I've enjoyed meeting with pledging members for most of the last 20 years, first during our annual pledge campaigns, and now during our year-round pledging. Sadly, the pandemic has made meeting in person unlikely, but phone calls and virtual meetings are still possible, and this Sunday, today, is our goal to have pledging members for this month complete their pledges. If this is your month, I hope you will keep that in mind. The pandemic has created challenges for all of us, but for me personally, the UU community has never been more important. It has sustained me in so many ways. From 1992 on, I always said that my favorite part of the UUCC was the Sunday service, and I would still say that today. It gives shape, meaning, and perspective to my week. I'm also blown away by how creative these virtual Sunday services have become, and I guess I'll never understand how the choir and the musicians can keep showing up in the same piece, singing different parts or playing different instruments. I hope we may all be able to meet in person finally in 2021, but I know that some small outdoor groups have been able to get together during the pandemic, walkers and hikers and cyclers. And some small groups, like the Open Mind Book Club that I'm involved with, have actually increased participation via Zoom because access is easier for folks who live further from our physical building in Rock Hill and Mint Hill, or even when staying in the mountains or the beach. Our staff is working hard to keep our community engaged and caring for each other. It is so important to maintain our programming during this difficult time, and for that we need our staff. Please keep in mind that most of our budget goes to support our staff, and consider renewing or even increasing your pledge to support our beloved community. Thank you.
Be sure to check out the events calendar on our website, where you will find a variety of opportunities for social connection, fun, both virtual and in person. You'll also find the latest opportunities for programming for children, youth, and adults, including on March 30th, a discussion of the memoir by Marcelo Hernandez Castillo that I mentioned earlier in the service, Children of the Land. As a spiritual community, we hold with love the family and friends of those who were killed in the shootings in Georgia this week. Among them, 6 women of Asian descent, killed by a white man who described his own motive as a need to eliminate sexual temptation. This horrific news comes during the same week when we also learned that hate incidents against people of Asian descent in this country have indeed risen significantly over the past year during the pandemic. Still more aware of the urgent need to dismantle the misogyny and white supremacy woven into our American culture from our founding, we hold our nation in prayer. And here, closer to home, we hold with love members of this spiritual community in their time of concern for their own health and the health of their loved ones. We hold in our hearts Kathy Salento as she recovers from surgery. We are sending love to Linda Dobson as she continues to have health challenges. We hold in our prayers Kelly Green in this time of concern for her mother's health. We hold in our hearts Marcia and Chuck Kelly as Marcia recovers from surgery. We are sending love to Mary Ann Lawler and Neil Sigmund as Mary Ann recovers from a recent injury. We hold in our prayers Belinda Perry as her mother enters the care of hospice. We hold in our hearts Marcia Pepper as she recovers from surgery and in this time of her husband's illness. We are sending love to Julie Prentice as she recovers from surgery. We hold in our prayers Bill and Abby Stepien in this time of concern for the health of Bill's brother.
Good morning, my name is Megan Van Fleet. This past year, for the 3rd time, I committed to taking a deeper look at the roots of the injustices upon which our country was founded. First in the Environmental Justice Core Group, then the Racial Justice, and now in the Cultural Justice Core Group. The readings, discussions, and research have continued to open my eyes to the long history of othering in this country, especially in the realm of immigration. Fittingly, it is through this work that I feel more connected to the people who have endured these struggles over the centuries and today. I feel so fortunate to be able to deepen my own understanding and awareness of immigration issues alongside other church members in the Cultural Justice Core Group. It is because of generous financial gifts contributed to this congregation which make programming like this and everything else we do together possible. And for this, I am so grateful to each of you. Thank you.
I'm grateful to our member, Sharon Walker, whom you'll meet in a moment, for her help with our closing words today. Sharon is the Director of College Advising for Gen 1 here in Charlotte, a nonprofit that helps first-generation students from underserved communities navigate to and through college. For our closing words, Sharon and I offer you a reading by Unitarian Universalist minister Teresa I. Soto. Soto wrote the following piece in both Spanish and English. In it, they call us to honor the first principle of Unitarian Universalism, which, if you are new here or need reminding, is to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
El valor y la dignidad de cada persona. Imagina que llegó el día en que dejamos de tasar a las personas como si fueran casas o montones de recursos.
The worth and dignity of every person. Imagine that the day arrived in which we left behind valuations of people as though they were houses or bundles of resources.
Personas siempre poseídas del conocimiento de que siempre son alguien, nunca nadie.
Persons always possessed of the knowledge that they are always somebody, never nobody.
De que el color de la piel, las fuentes del lenguaje, la distancia del hogar no define a quién merece la pena de nuestro apoyo, nuestro cariño y el sentido de pertenecer a esta comunidad en este momento con estas posibilidades.
That skin color, sources of language, or distance from home doesn't define who is worthy of our support, our caring, and the sense of belonging in this community, in this moment, with these possibilities.
Este momento se siente peligroso. Hay algo que se resiste a todas las dignidades que no son las de la gente blanca, algo que lastima y pone en riesgo la vida de los demás.
This moment feels dangerous. There is something that resists all the dignities that are not those of white folks, damaging, risking the rest of the lives.
¿Cómo responderemos? ¿Cuál es la respuesta? ¿Qué inspira el primer principio?
How shall we respond? What is there for an answer? What does the first principle itself require?
Levantémonos en contra de todo poder injusto, en contra del ejercicio del poder sin límite ni ética.
Let us rise against every unjust power, against the exercise of power without limits or ethics.
Es hora de imaginar un día diferente, una conexión innegable con el universo entero, libertad en abundancia y paz en cada corazón.
It's time to imagine a different day, an undeniable connection to the entire universe, freedom in abundance, and peace in every heart. Be well and reach out when you need us.